I have one frustration from the experience. As a pastor for almost a half century, making your living, taking up offerings, I have a frustration that I had a congregation of 2 million people and couldn't figure out a way to take up an offering. But remember, you promised not to tell anybody. Let me, before I finish that story about the inauguration, let me leave with you young people something another young person said the other day that I want you to hear. You may not know her too well. Her name is Beyonce. In case you don't know her, she sings and dances. Let me tell you, a reporter asked her, she said, "What do you think of President Obama?" And she said, "Oh my God, every time I hear him, or every time I see him, I want to be smarter. I want to be more intelligent. I want to be more informed. I want to be more involved." Oh, my young people, hear Beyonce. Don't emulate her shaking, but emulate her thinking. There's a level of thinking that shows there's hope for America. We ought to, everybody, not just black folks, every member of the coalition of conscience, when we realize what America did, the step America took, the higher ground to which she climbed, we ought to want to be smarter. We ought to want to be more intelligent. We ought to want to be more involved in the political process. I feel better about America since that happened. It's a great and shining moment in our history. And I felt good up on that mall. And they said, when you get up there, you're going to look down across the mall and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial and you'll see the Washington Monument. And I look forward to that. But when I got up there, there was a little haze. But I saw the Washington Monument piercing the clouds. But I couldn't, these old eyes, which I've been straining for 88 years, they couldn't quite pick out the Lincoln Memorial. And I worried about that, even as I gave the prayer. But while I was praying, my soul spoke to me. And my soul said, "Don't worry about your eyes. I'll be your eyes. I'll see the Lincoln Memorial." And in my heart, I got there, I said, "I'm not going to let the soul have the whole day. I will be your ears. I will hear a voice on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, a voice that lifted itself 46 years ago, said, 'I have a dream.' And that voice on those steps that day in August of 1963 issued a summons to America to climb up out of the lowland of race and color to the higher ground of content of character. And here I was, thank God, participating in the response of my country to that summons issued in 1963. And I can't stand the Star-Spangled Banner. I think it's a terrible national anthem. Bombs bursting in there, rockets, red glare. Somebody ought to get a bill in Congress to change it to "Oh beautiful," for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. But even the Star-Spangled Banner that day, which is all that came after my prayer, sounded good to me. America had risen out of the basement of race and color and stood tall across the universe by electing an African American to the highest office in the land. Happy birthday, Martin. Happy birthday, Martin. God bless you. and God bless America. How do you want to answer it? You going to take the question? Yeah, that's it. Back down here.
I think we got another one for you, Rev Lowry. We have another high one for you.
I'll take easy questions. I understand there are microphones.
There's two mics in each aisle. If you line up by the aisle, there's two.
Go ahead, tell them about it.
Right here. And we just ask is if any students, younger students, do come to the line, you please let them move forward, please, and speak first. Thank you.
Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening.
When you were young and growing up, before you made it to seminary school and decided you were going to be a minister, was there ever anybody when you were young telling you that you weren't going to make it? And did you ever believe them for a second? And did they encourage you to go farther when they told you you weren't going to make it?
You know, I really don't remember anybody having the guts to look me in the eye and tell me I wasn't going to make it. I really don't. I remember circumstances and events that might have served to intimidate or deliver a message that you weren't going to make it. But thank God I had people around me who always told me I would make it.
Amen. Amen.
And I could make it. I remember an incident when I was about 12 years old. I was coming out of a place called the Sweet Shop. It was a little restaurant which my father ran. And I was 2/3 out of the door, and a big police officer, you understood he was white. There was no such thing as a black police officer when I was a boy. He took his nightstick and punched me in the belly and said, "Get back, nigger. Don't you see a white man coming?" Of course, I got back. I didn't have any choice. And I went home, and I wasn't nonviolent then. I remember a little silver-barreled, pearl-handled pistol that my father had in the drawer. And I went home to get the pistol, to go look for this man who had punched me in the belly. And when I was coming out with the pistol in my pocket, my father met me on the front porch. Now here's what's strange about that. My father's work. I had never seen my father at home that time of afternoon in my life except on Sunday. But this was not a Sunday. And I don't know to this day what brought him home that time of day, except it may have been to save my life. He took the gun, gave me a good tongue lashing, and went next day to see the mayor to complain. The mayor told him, said, "Lee, there's nothing I can do. That's the only kind of person I can find to work the police force. You just have to get over it." My father came back and told me that. We both sat down in my living room and cried. And then we prayed. And from that moment on, I determined that someday, somehow, somewhere, I would try to do all I could to change that kind of feeling in our society. I never hated white people. And all during the movement, we never hated. We always told young people, it's love that motivates us. People who have discriminated against us have been trained and taught to hate. We must not hate. We must be nonviolent, for we seek to redeem the soul of America.